Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron?
You done messed up, Aaron!
Aaron is here. And I'll tell you what, David Miscavige done messed up when he ever decided to mess with Leah Remini. Little Captain Davy Miscavige, the head of the international multi-billion-dollar human trafficking cult known as Scientology. You know, sometimes I even feel a little sorry for the little fella. Where did it all go wrong with little Captain Davy of Scientology's fake space navy? Was it nature? Was it nurture? Maybe we'll never truly know. They say absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's probably partially to blame for little Captain Dave. Little reminder to everybody, there are 5 separate lawsuits against David Miscavige and Scientology. Never mind the grand jury investigation into obstruction of justice. Remember, guys, here at SPTV, every day is a bad day to be David Miscavige, but it's a great day not to be in a cult. The lawsuits are, there's Leah Remini versus Miscavige and Scientology. That's for stalking, harassment, fair game. There's Bixler versus Miscavige and Scientology. That's the lawsuit brought by a number of Danny Masterson's victims and some other individuals. Again, for the stalking, harassment, intimidation, fair game that those people have been exposed to since the LAPD reopened their investigation into Danny Masterson a number of years ago. There's Jane Doe versus Miscavige and Scientology. That's a lawsuit against David Miscavige, Gavin Potter, Bridge Publications, Church of Scientology International for another trafficking lawsuit. There's Baxter versus Miscavige and Scientology et al. That's a lawsuit from 3 former Sea Org members for labor trafficking, etc., on Scientology's cruise ship, the Free Winds. There's Haney versus Miscavige and Scientology. That's the lawsuit from Valerie Haney, who used to work directly for David Miscavige and Shelley Miscavige. She's the one who had to escape from Scientology's headquarters in the trunk of a car. That lawsuit was diverted into internal religious arbitration, but fingers crossed, it looks like that lawsuit may have an opportunity to come back into the courts. I mean, guys, it just sucks to be David Miscavige. So let's look at the update in what Leah Remini's team has filed. Yet another filing to the court asking the court to rule that David Miscavige has once again, beneficially served. So let's take a look at this. You can see here Leah Remini's formidable legal team. And this filing is proof of service upon defendant David Miscavige. It says action filed August 2nd. That's when this lawsuit was originally filed. But the filing that we're going to read from today was filed just yesterday. Let's jump forward. We're going to fast forward here a little bit. Check out all of the addresses that they've tried to serve Miscavige at. What's coming up here shortly? So here we go. 5 different addresses in Los Angeles. 4401 Sunset Boulevard, that's Scientology Media Productions. 5930 Franklin, that's the Celebrity Center. 7051 Hollywood Boulevard, that's Author Services, that's on Hollywood and La Brea. 1306 L. Ron Hubbard Way, 1413 L. Ron Hubbard Way. Those are 2 of the big blue buildings on L. Ron Hubbard Way, known as the PAC Base. Pacific Base. Let's read some of these details because I find these things endlessly entertaining, particularly for those former Scientologists who know the people who end up speaking with this process server. Okay, so this is Scientology Media Productions on Sunset Boulevard. It says, there is no front door entrance to this building at this address, only driveways with gates in and out and a guardhouse in between. No call box, only a numeric keypad. I knocked on the metal gate by the guardhouse. The door slid open and a Caucasian male uniformed security guard asked how he could help me. I asked if David Miscavige was there. He said, no, what are you doing on my driveway? I told him I was there to serve legal papers to David Miscavige and asked, have you seen him? Does he work here? He said he does not work here. I asked if he knew where I could find him, and he said no. Now, what's interesting about this is Scientology Media Productions is actually, to the best of the knowledge of those most recently out of the Sea organization, Scientology Media Productions is actually David Miscavige's new headquarters, where he works, where he takes meetings, where he spends most of his time. Now, in a sense, and this is where Scientology security guards get a little cute and are sort of allowed to be a little cute. In a sense, David Miscavige doesn't work anywhere and he works everywhere. It depends. It depends on who's asking. It depends on what he's taking credit for at the moment. It depends on what crowd he is addressing. Because Miscavige almost intentionally chooses to work in locations where he's not officially supposed to be working. I mean, even if only so that he can avoid process servers. But Scientology Media Productions is, in fact, to the best knowledge available, his actual primary working address. But they're like, David Miscavige, never heard of him. Unbelievable. Okay, let's keep going. Let's jump over to Scientology's Celebrity Center. Okay, the process server says, I pressed the intercom button at the front gate and it rang and rang. It reset with a busy tone and began dialing again. I let it ring for about 2 minutes as this auto redial continued. At the side entrance, there was a white male plainclothes security guard. He asked if he could help me. I asked who he was, and he said he was private security. I asked his name, and he said Chuck. I said, have you seen David Miscavige? Is he here? He said no and no. I asked if I should go to the delivery office. Maybe they could help. He said that they should say, they will say the same thing. I asked if he knew where David Miscavige can be found, and he said no. Well, no big surprise there. Okay, let's jump over to Author Services. This is the massive Scientology building located on Hollywood and La Brea. Okay, the intercom at the Hollywood Boulevard entrance does not work. See, that's interesting, right? Because this is an organization worth tens of millions of dollars. I mean, that building alone is worth tens and tens of millions of dollars probably. But for some reason, the intercom's broken. There is a folding partition barrier just inside the front double doors, which appear to not be in use. On the Sycamore Avenue side of the building, there's an intercom and a camera at the driveway to the parking structure only. There's no formal entry and exit doorway, other than what looks like one set of exit-only double doors. The intercom rang and rang, hung up and auto-redialed over and over for about 4.5 minutes. There was no answer, no activity observed. Now, Author Services is supposed to be L. Ron Hubbard's literary agency. Yes, there's a dedicated literary agency for a man who's been dead for close to 40 years. But apparently nobody shows up for work. There's no way to reach anybody inside the building. Highly suspicious. Okay, let's go on to the next attempt. Here we have L. Ron Hubbard Way. This is where an awful lot of the former Sea Org members that you hear from spent a lot of time working, including myself. So let's see what happens here. I approached the doors and was quickly met by a security guard who asked what I needed. I told him that I was here to see David Miscavige. Is he here? He said no. I asked, where can David Miscavige be found? He said, I don't have an answer to that. We know why you're here and you are not welcome. I'm asking you to leave. I asked him about, how about 1413 L. Ron Hubbard Way? Does David Miscavige work there? He said, no, we know why you're here and you are not welcome. I said, you know that I'm trying to serve legal process and I'm not welcome? He said, yes. And he asked me to leave again. Wow, very rude. Okay, another attempt over at Author Services. I approached the Sycamore side of the building and saw two men next to a pickup truck parked in the driveway. They appeared to be plain-clothes security guards. One of them had a walkie-talkie. I asked if they worked here, and they both said no. One quickly turned and walked away while making a call on his cell phone. The other quickly jumped in the truck and left. I rang the intercom, no answer. It disconnected and auto-redialed a number of times. The gate opened, and a Hispanic male in a Toyota pickup drove out. I waved, motioning to open the window. He did open the window. That's a surprise. I asked if he worked there. He said no. I asked if David Miscavige was there, and he got nervous. He said no, shaking his head, and quickly drove off. The gate closed behind him. The man on his phone was watching me from across the street. That's not creepy. And then got into his truck and left. I tried the Hollywood entrance, same as last time. Closed. Wow. Okay, one more time over at the Celebrity Center. I went to the delivery gate at the back of the property on Yucca Street. The intercom doesn't work. Big surprise. I called the phone number on the sign. It rang and rang. No answer. I continued on Tamarind Ave toward the front of the building. At the side entrance, there was a uniformed security guard. I said, hello. I began to ask if David Miscavige was there. He interrupted me. He said, we know who you are. We cannot help you. I asked, you know my name? He did not reply. I asked if he'd seen David Miscavige. He said, we know who you are. We know what you're doing. You're not welcome here, and I can't help you. I went to the front gate on Franklin and I pressed the button on the intercom. It rang and rang and rang. It redialed and continued ringing. No answer. The security guard was watching me from inside the property. Okay, well, that's not creepy at all. Hold on, guys. It just occurred to me I had to check something on this video. Okay, we're still good. All right. One more time at Scientology Med Productions, guys. Let's see if they have any luck here. I checked the gated entrances around the side and the back of the property looking for an intercom. None found. Geez, it's almost as if they don't want anybody having access to anyone on these properties. It's weird. Why bother buying incredibly expensive, centrally located properties in Hollywood if you have no interest in interacting with people in the outside world, or you don't want any non-Scientologists to have access to you? It does beg the question, why buy all these properties in these hugely populated areas? Anyway, just a strange thing to consider. All right. No intercom found, only a numeric keypad. There are security cameras at every gate and around the entire property. I approached the front gate and guardhouse on Sunset Boulevard and called out, "Hello." A female uniformed security guard came out of the building next to the gate. I said, "Good morning. Is David Miscavige here?" She interrupted and said, "Please get off of our driveway." I told her that I am a legal process server and I am not trespassing. I asked if David Miscavige was here. She said no. I asked, "Have you ever seen David Miscavige?" She said, "Can you please leave?" I said, "Have a good day," and left. Well, the process server is being incredibly polite, but not so much for the Sea Org members. Okay, now this is a security guard that's famous to everybody, Odo Huber. Everybody knows Odo. You know, in the real world, Odo's a very sweet guy. Most of his family has left Scientology, but unfortunately, Odo is still there, stuck inside that prison of belief. Okay, let's see what Odo has to say. Maybe he's a little more polite. I approached the entrance to 1413 L. Ron Hubbard Way and was met on the sidewalk by uniformed security guard Odo. I asked how he was, and he said, there's a typo here. It must be, "I'm fine. How are you?" See, very polite. Good job, Odo. I asked if David Miscavige was here. He said, "No, wrong address." As if there's a right address. He said, "Wrong address. I told you that before." I said, "No, that attempt was at 4810 Sunset Boulevard." He said, "None of these addresses are his." I asked if David Miscavige was affiliated with any of these businesses here. He said, "I cannot help you." I said, "I will check over at 1306 L. Ron Hubbard Way." He said, "I will tell you the same thing about there." Okay, that's okay. I asked that he's not affiliated with that entity either. He said that is not his address. I asked if he has ever seen David Miscavige. He said no. Okay, now that's just kind of funny. And I wish that it's things like statements like that from Odo that just makes me wish that there was some judge, some like continuing educational program for judges on the subject of Scientology. I don't know. I'm just like being silly here. So that when a judge reads an affidavit where a Scientology Sea Org security guard who's been in the Sea Org for like 30 years is claiming to have never seen David Miscavige, that the judge can just laugh the way I would and, you know, throw it in the trash and say, "Approved. David Miscavige has been served." For Odo Huber to say he's never seen David Miscavige is hilarious to anyone who knows Odo or knows anything about David Miscavige. Okay. But anyway, the judges don't know any better. And that's why Scientology succeeds in fooling the courts again and again and again. All right, let's see one more time here. This is just further down, a little further south on L. Ron Hubbard Way. I continued on to 1306. Another guard was standing in the front entrance. I asked him if David Miscavige was there. He said, "No, sir, wrong address." I asked if he was affiliated with the Advanced Organization of Los Angeles. He said, "No, wrong address, but we know why you're here and I can't help you." I asked him to tell me why he thinks I'm here. Clever. He was silent and then asked, "Well, what are you here for?" I said, "I'm here to serve legal process to David Miscavige." He said, "Yes, and I cannot help you." So rude. So rude. Come on, just be a little helpful, you guys. Okay, back to author services. This one's actually funny. I approached the side entrance of the building on Sycamore Ave. There's a small patio-like area between the two driveways and appears to be part of the property. I spotted two men seated in there, one with a walkie-talkie. I recognized them as the same two men from my previous attempt, and I asked if they worked there. They both said no. I asked if David Miscavige was there. They both said no. Well, if they don't work there, how would they know that? I asked if they have seen him there. They said no. I asked if there was a manager or anyone in charge of the building. They said no. I asked if there was a specific time of day when a manager or someone in charge would be there. They said no. Well, if they don't work there, how can they claim to know that? I asked if there was a specific I asked if there was a specific time of day when a manager or someone in charge would be there. They said no. I asked if they were building security. They said no. I asked, so you guys just hang out here? And they said yes. Okay, that was the funny one. That was the funny one. Okay. Oh, this also is funny. One more attempt at the Celebrity Center. I approached the side entrance on Tamarind Ave and was met by a plainclothes security guard. It was Chuck again. Hey, Chuck, how you doing? Okay. He said, what can I do for you? I explained that I was a process server there to serve David Miscavige. And I asked, are you in charge of the property? He said, I'm hired private security. Wow, that's a lot of honesty from Chuck, actually. And I can tell you he is not here. It's almost like Chuck was specifically hired just to tell process servers that David Miscavige was not there. I asked if there was a manager that I could talk to. He said, they're not going to come out. I asked, well, can I go in? He said, oh, God, no, and repositioned himself between me and the entrance. I explained, I'm not trespassing while serving legal process. He said, they do not want you on the property. I understand. I know your job. I announced that I was substitute serving him on behalf of David Miscavige with summons and complaints for 2 lawsuits. He backed up and would not take the documents, so I dropped them at his feet. Okay, guys, one more, and I promise this is it. This one's funny as well, and then we'll be done with this. Back to Scientology Media Productions. I knocked on the metal gate a few times. The same security guard from my first attempt came out of the guardhouse. I told him I was a process server here to serve David Miscavige. Is he here? He replied, he is not here. Now, please get off my driveway. I asked if he was in charge of the property. He said no. I asked if there was a manager here. He said no. I said, so you're the only one in charge here? I love it. He said, please leave our property. I explained that I was not trespassing. I announced that I was substitute serving him on behalf of David Miscavige with 2 lawsuits. He stepped back quickly as I extended my arm through the gate and dropped the papers inside the gate at his feet. Oh, I love it. I wish I could see a photo of those papers sitting on the floor inside the gate. The 2 lawsuits that the same process server is serving David Miscavige for is Leah Remini's lawsuit, Leah Remini versus David Miscavige in Scientology, and the Jane Doe versus Scientology. I realize that's such a general name for a lawsuit; it's almost meaningless. It is the one. Suing David Miscavige and Gavin Potter and Bridge Publications and the Church of Scientology International. And that lawsuit, to the best of my understanding, is going, more plaintiffs are going to be added to that lawsuit where it's not just a single Jane Doe. And that lawsuit has to do with the practice of Gavin Potter. And Gavin Potter was notorious for this. And many other people have come out of the woodwork to corroborate this and potentially join the lawsuit. Gavin Potter was notorious for recruiting young teenage Scientology girls and recruiting them for Bridge Publications, which is a publishing it's a publishing arm of Scientology staffed exclusively by Sea Org members. And this practice of recruiting these young, cute Scientology girls, they were called the Bridge Babes. And they'd be very quickly married off to older Sea Org men. Gavin Potter himself married one of these young girls. And one of those girls is the one initiating this lawsuit against Gavin Potter. Anyway, very, very interesting stuff. What we are still waiting for is and remember, the two different lawsuits, 2 different judges. We are still waiting for these judges to rule that the evidence Leah Remini's team and Jane Doe's team have submitted about the service of David Miscavige is in fact sufficient. We are waiting for the judges to rule that David Miscavige has been served and that he is now in fact an active party in the lawsuit, whatever the right word. The correct terminology is escaping me. But when that happens, it will be a big deal. It will be a very big deal. and you'll hear about it because I'll share it with you. Okay, let's do some super chats and then we'll call this one a wrap. Tim Smith, David Miscavige wouldn't have all this flap if he wasn't scrolling the tech and hiding OT 9 and 10. I don't know, Tim. I might disagree with you here. Such a downstat PTS crim lost for the whole track. Hi, so put that in your weekly report. Now, Tim, I realize you're probably just making a joke here in your super chat, but I want to take an opportunity to clarify that there really is no difference between standard tech and squirreled tech. There is this myth. It really is a myth in Scientology that there's this thing called standard tech. Scientologists believe that, you know, what's in the technical bulletins and the policy volumes is somehow some sort of sanctified, pure version of what L. Ron Hubbard wrote. Never mind the fact that who even cares if it is what L. Ron Hubbard wrote, that wouldn't make it better. Honestly, what Scientologists know as quote unquote standard tech is still just some squirreled version because there is no standard version. I know that might sound weird. Might seem like a weird point I'm making, but it's just true. And the fact is, it's not that he's hiding OT 9 and 10. It's that there is no OT 9 and 10. L. Ron Hubbard, they went through every scrap of every notes of every quote unquote research paper he left behind after he died. Nothing. There's nothing. There's no 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, or 15. That is actually the big con of Scientology. You could say it's all a con, but at least Scientologists are able to actively participate in Scientology and make up their own minds as to whether it's a con or not for themselves. The real con of Scientology is that there are these things called the upper OT levels, and that these upper OT levels will bring you to a state called full OT. And that L. Ron Hubbard achieved this state before he died and left behind these magical levels that will allow everyone else to achieve that state. That's the real con, because that's the part Miscavige, Hubbard before him, and Miscavige now has been lying to everybody about. So anyway, I know you probably didn't mean to make a loaded comment, but I just wanted to provide that commentary. Thank you, Tim. Angelique Marie, Sterling, wear a panda suit with a heart for Halloween. Sterling's my Bubba the Love Panda, and I hope he dresses accordingly so we can do a Halloween stream. Thank you, Angelina Marie. Josh Armenta. Hello, Josh. Not a typo. Oh, it's not a typo? That's Odo's tagline. I am. Oh, he goes, how are you? And Odo says, I am. And you? Oh, what a stupid thing to say. What a stupid Scientology-like thing to say. I didn't know that was his tagline. Now that makes sense. Sorry, process server, for implying that you had a typo in your report. Thank you, Josh, for explaining that to me. That's wild. Casey Cat. Ooh, I know this song. It wasn't me. Oh, yeah. Who's that guy? It wasn't me. Shit, what was that guy's name? It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Okay, anyway, moving on. Thank you, Casey Cat. Josh is back. Odo knows something about hiding from process too. Oh, that's right, Josh. You sent me those papers about Odo being sued by Discover Card, and I went through those emails. I got to figure out how to do a video about that. Oh, we got another one here. Alyssa Fleck just saw the news about Leah serving Dave. Wow. Monumental. Well, the effort, the hoops that these guys have jumped through is certainly monumental. We are still waiting for the judges to say, yes, this is good enough. Let's get, let's be done with this charade and let's, move on like sensible people. All right, guys, in about an hour and 20 minutes, me and Mark Bunker are doing a live, in real life up in outside of downtown Clearwater at a place called Hacienda Corralejo. It's a little campaign event to get candidate petitions signed for Mark Bunker. If you're watching this video right now and you live in Clearwater, please come to Hacienda Corralejo at 7 p.m. We'll be there. Otherwise, guys, that's all I got for right now. Might have more coming later this evening. Not totally sure. There's something really, really exciting that if I can get a little bit more information on, I'm doing a video about it this evening. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Thank you, as always, to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.